My name is Fiona Anderson, and this is the story of how I turned the worst day of my life into my greatest victory. Picture this, discovering your fiancé in bed with your younger sister just 3 months before your wedding. Now imagine receiving a wedding invitation from them, along with a handwritten note that said, "Come see what true love looks like." Most people would have stayed home or shown up in tears. I didn't either. I arrived wearing a breathtaking white dress, and carrying a secret that would shatter their perfect day and change everything. The look on my sister's face when she realized she'd just lost $8 million? Absolutely priceless. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it all began. The whispers started the moment I walked through the heavy oak doors of St. Catherine's Cathedral. 200 heads turned at once, gasps rippling through the room like a wave. Is that her? Why is she wearing white? I kept my head high, walking slowly down the burgundy aisle. My Versace gown, the one I had bought for my own wedding, shimmered under the stained glass light. At the altar stood Sophia, my little sister, dressed in ivory silk and white roses. Beside her was Marcus, my ex-fiancé, wearing the same tuxedo he'd picked out with me. His face went pale when he saw me. The wedding coordinator rushed over, flustered. "Miss Anderson. We weren't expecting, my invitation says 2 o'clock, I replied calmly, holding it up. I'm right on time. I took my seat near the back, legs crossed elegantly. My mother twisted around, mouth open in shock. My father's jaw was so tight I could see the muscle twitch. But Sophia, oh, she was furious. I could see it in every line of her body. Perfect. Let her squirm. The organ music swelled, trying to cover the tension. Father Michael cleared his throat nervously, glancing between the bride and me. None of them knew I held all the cards, and the small wooden box in my purse contained everything I needed for justice. 2 weeks earlier, I'd received that invitation. Same design, same font, even the same calligrapher I'd chosen for my own wedding. But the handwritten note inside had made my blood run cold. "Dearest Fiona, I know this might be hard, but family should celebrate family. Come see what true love looks like. We'd hate for you to miss it. Love, Sophie and Marcus." It wasn't just betrayal, it was cruelty. A calculated strike. That night, I called my best friend Rachel. "Don't go," she begged. "That's what she wants, to humiliate you." But Rachel didn't know what I knew. She didn't know about my meeting with James Mitchell, my grandmother's lawyer. She didn't know about the documents sitting in his safe. "I'm going," I told her. "And I'll give them a wedding they'll never forget." For 2 weeks, I planned, not revenge, but justice. After years of being the quiet, obedient daughter, it was time to claim what was mine. I'd even called Marcus once. "Just making sure you're happy with your choice," I'd said. "What do you mean?" he asked. $8 million. I hope she's worth it." I hung up. Let him wonder. Let him panic. Growing up, I was always the rough draft. Sophia was the masterpiece. She got the car, the praise, the spotlight. I got lectures about responsibility. I worked my way into MIT. She barely graduated from state school, yet her parties were bigger, her praise louder. "Men don't like women who are too smart," my mother used to say. Sophia didn't have to be smart. She had charm, and she used it to take everything that mattered to me, my prom date, my internship, my spotlight. And eventually, Marcus. Grandma Eleanor had once told me, "You have something Sophia never will, substance." Back then, I thought she meant my career. Now I knew she meant something deeper. Sophia had always stolen what she wanted, and our parents always excused her. "You're the mature one, Fiona. Be the bigger person." And I had, for 32 years. Even when she flirted with Marcus at my engagement party, I told myself I was imagining things. When I caught them in our bed months later, my parents somehow blamed me. You work too much, they said. But that day in the cathedral, the rough draft was about to become the final edition. Sophia had been stealing from me since high school: boyfriends, scholarships, opportunities. Marcus was just her masterpiece of cruelty. When she'd seen my engagement ring at Thanksgiving, I saw it in her eyes: envy. By Christmas, she was helping Marcus with work. By Valentine's Day, she was joining us on dates. By April, I was finding her earrings in our bedroom. When I finally caught them, Marcus didn't apologize. He said, "She's everything you're not: spontaneous, fun, exciting." A week later, they moved in together. My parents threw them a party. I wasn't invited. But Sophia never looked beneath the surface. She took Marcus and my wedding plans, but not the truth, the debt, the lies, and the $8 million legacy my grandmother had left for me. While Sophia flaunted her stolen happily ever after, I lost everything: my fiancé, my promotion, my reputation. I became gossip at work, a walking scandal. My parents dismissed me as selfish, telling me to think of the family business. What they didn't realize was that Grandma had left behind more than memories. She'd left me control of the company, hidden in plain sight. James Mitchell had shown me the papers. "Your grandmother was brilliant," he'd said. "She made sure you would be the one to save this company, not your father, not your sister." That's when I began to understand the power I held. Sophia, meanwhile, was basking in attention. Engagement photos, hashtags about true love, and hundreds of comments cheering her on, all while she wore my grandmother's ring. I became invisible. Even my closest friends drifted away. But I didn't need them. I needed justice. So while Sophia planned her dream wedding using my vendors, my venue, and my honeymoon itinerary, I met with lawyers, accountants, and everyone who'd worked with Grandma. "Your sister has no idea, does she?" James asked. "No," I said. "She's too busy planning her perfect wedding." 3 days before the ceremony, Sophia called. "You're not actually coming, right?" she asked, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Wouldn't miss it for the world," I said. "Just don't wear white or anything psycho." "Wouldn't dream of it." She hung up, and 5 minutes later, Marcus texted, "Can we talk?" "I'm sorry. It's about the money." He had no idea what money he was talking about. That was my secret. The next morning, my mother showed up at my door. "You need to stay home Saturday," she demanded. "It's a free country," I replied. "Just think of the family, Fiona." Like Sophia thought of the family when she slept with my fiancé? Her face hardened. "That's different." She had no idea, everything was about to change. They fell in love in my bed. "You're being crude." "I'm being honest." "There's a difference." Then, as if she could erase decades of betrayal with a signature, my mother pulled out her checkbook. Yes, a checkbook. "In 2024. "How much will it take?" she asked coldly. 5,000? 10? I just stared at her, my own mother, trying to buy my absence from my sister's wedding to my ex-fiancé. "Keep your money," I said quietly. "You're going to need it." Her brows furrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Ask Dad about the Patterson contract," I replied. "And the loans he took out against the company." Her face drained of color. "How do you, goodbye, Mom." When she left, I picked up my phone and called James Mitchell. "Is everything ready?" "The documents are authenticated and sealed," he confirmed. "The board members have been notified and are on standby." "And the timing?" "Whenever you're ready, Miss Anderson." "Your grandmother made sure of that." I hung up, my gaze drifting to the white Versace dress hanging on my closet door. Almost time. The family intervention came the next night, less than 18 hours before the wedding. They showed up unannounced: Mom, Dad, and Aunt Patricia, the family's self-appointed enforcer. "This has gone far enough," Dad began, settling onto my couch like he owned the place. You will not ruin your sister's wedding. I'm not ruining anything, I said evenly. I'm attending, as invited. Aunt Patricia clutched her pearls. The entire extended family will be there. The Washingtons, the Clearys, the Brennans. What will people think? The truth. Don't be smart, Dad snapped. The company needs this wedding to go perfectly. Marcus's family has connections. Marcus is $200,000 in debt, I said calmly. Did he mention that? The room went still. Mom recovered first. You're lying. Gambling debts. Credit cards. A failed business venture in Miami, I listed, pulling up the files on my phone. I had a private investigator look into it after I caught them together. Wanted to know what kind of man I almost married. Dad's face turned purple. You had no right. I had every right, I said. He opened 3 credit cards in my name. I'm still fighting the fraud charges. This is exactly why he left you, Mom said coldly. You're so controlling. He didn't leave me, I said quietly. He cheated on me, with my sister. Who's welcome to him? Stop being vindictive, Aunt Patricia interjected. Family supports family. Where was that support when I needed it? I shot back. You're the older one, the responsible one, Dad said. Act like it. My phone buzzed. A text from James Mitchell. Final review complete. Board members confirmed for emergency meeting Monday 9 a.m. I looked at the 3 of them, people who had never once taken my side, who'd spent my entire life making me smaller so Sophia could shine. I'll see you all tomorrow, I said, standing. 2 o'clock sharp. Dad rose too, trying to tower over me. If you show up tomorrow, what? I cut him off. You'll disown me? Cut me off? You already did that when you handed Sophia my wedding vendors, my venue, my life. We're trying to save the family business. No, I said, holding the door open. You're trying to save yourselves. There's a difference. As they filed out, Mom turned back, her eyes cold. Your grandmother would be ashamed of you. I smiled then, my first genuine smile in months. We'll see about that. After they left, I opened the wooden box one more time, running my fingers over the legal documents inside, Grandma Eleanor's real will, the one she'd hidden from everyone but James Mitchell. Tomorrow, everything would change. Grandma had died 6 months earlier, on a rainy Tuesday in January. I was the only one with her at the end, holding her frail hand as she whispered, "Patience, my dear. The quiet ones change the world." At her funeral, Sophia had cried theatrically, despite not visiting once during Grandma's final months. She'd even tried to give a eulogy but broke down 2 sentences in. Everyone rushed to comfort her. Poor Sophie. She's so sensitive. I hadn't spoken that day. I'd simply sat in the back, dry-eyed, remembering the real Eleanor Anderson, the woman who built an architecture firm from nothing in 1978, when women weren't supposed to run businesses. 2 weeks later, James Mitchell called. Your grandmother left specific instructions, he said. The will reading is postponed for 6 months. Why? I asked. She said you'd understand when the time was right. I hadn't understood then. But as my life unraveled, my engagement, my career, my family's loyalty, her reasoning became clear. Over time, the truth emerged. Grandma had been quietly building safeguards, protections, and contingencies for decades. She didn't trust my father's leadership. She saw through Sophia's charm. And somehow, she'd seen me. Anderson and Associates wasn't worth just what was on paper. Hidden beneath the surface was an $8 million legacy, one she'd reserved for the person strong enough to protect it. And the conditions were airtight. The heir had to be of Anderson blood. Unmarried, or married to someone financially stable, approved by the board. Of moral character, defined legally. No major debts. No infidelity. No fraud. Marcus failed on all counts. And by marrying him, Sophia would forfeit everything. Tomorrow, at her own wedding, she would sign away her entire future. And I would be there, in white, to make sure she understood exactly what she'd lost. Sophia's smug expression collapsed into pure shock, while Marcus turned as pale as paper. I object, I said, my voice cutting through the stunned silence. On what grounds? Father Michael asked, blinking rapidly. Legal grounds. I stepped forward and pulled a small wooden box from my purse. I have documents that materially affect this union. The garden fell completely silent. You could have heard the breeze stop. If someone humiliated you like this, would you have stayed quiet? Or would you have done exactly what I did next? I'm curious, what's the biggest betrayal you've ever faced? Share it below if you're comfortable. Maybe your story will help someone who's going through the same thing. Now, back to the most satisfying moment of my life. I repeated, clearly this time, I object on legal grounds. 200 guests turned at once. Gasps spread like ripples through water. Somewhere in the back, a champagne flute shattered. Father Michael looked completely out of his depth. Miss Anderson, this is highly irregular. I have documentation that materially affects this marriage, I said, walking down the aisle slowly, every step deliberate. My white Versace dress shimmered under the afternoon sun. I heard someone whisper, she wore white to her sister's wedding. Yes. Yes, I did. Fiona, sit down, my mother barked from the front row. I ignored her and stopped at the altar, face to face with Sophia, her bouquet trembling, her smile gone. Marcus looked like he might bolt at any second. These are legal documents, I said evenly, handing the box to Father Michael. Authenticated and notarized. They concern the estate of Eleanor Anderson and its direct impact on this marriage. Father Michael hesitated, but before he could speak, a familiar voice called out, James Mitchell, attorney for the Anderson estate. Those documents are legitimate and time-sensitive. James rose from the fifth row, every word precise and calm. Sophia found her voice. This is insane. You can't just, actually, I interrupted, I can. I turned to face the crowd. 6 months ago, our grandmother, Eleanor Anderson, passed away. What most of you don't know is that she left behind a very specific will, with very specific conditions. You're lying, Sophia spat. The will was already read, I was there. That, James corrected, was the preliminary will. The full version was sealed for 6 months, per Mrs. Anderson's written instructions. And today marks exactly 6 months since her passing. Father Michael carefully opened the box, his hands trembling. As he read through the first few pages, his eyes widened. This states that the entire Anderson estate, valued at $8 million, is left to Fiona Anderson, conditional upon her marital status. Gasps rippled through the guests. Even Richard Brennan, CEO of Brennan Industries, leaned forward in interest. It further states, Father Michael continued, his voice steady now, that any Anderson family member who marries someone with outstanding debts exceeding $50,000, or with a history of financial fraud, forfeits all claims to the estate. Marcus swayed slightly. Sophia gripped his arm so hard her knuckles went white. Furthermore, Father Michael read on, any family member who engages in infidelity with an engaged or married person is permanently excluded from inheritance. The silence that followed was heavy. How much debt do you have, Marcus? I asked casually. 200,000 last I checked, right? Plus the credit cards you opened in my name. A low murmur spread through the garden. The entire Anderson estate, Father Michael declared, including Anderson and Associates architecture firm, all patents, properties, and partnerships, valued at $8 million, is hereby bequeathed to Fiona Marie Anderson. Sophia's face drained of all color. That's impossible. The company is Dad's. No, I said softly. The company was Grandma's. The patents, the properties, the partnerships, all hers. Dad managed it, but he never owned it. James Mitchell stepped forward, presenting additional paperwork. Mrs. Eleanor Anderson retained 78% ownership through trusts and holding companies. Her conditions are airtight. This is fraud. Marcus finally shouted. Fraud? James turned to him. You mean like opening credit cards under someone else's name? That kind of fraud? Marcus froze. Miss Anderson has chosen not to press charges, yet, James added calmly. The crowd buzzed with whispers and the sound of phones being raised to record. Father Michael cleared his throat. There's more. It also states that any marriage performed under false pretenses, specifically regarding financial stability or with intent to defraud, may be legally voided. We're not married yet. Sophia screamed. Actually, said Mrs. Chen, one of Grandma's board members, rising from her seat, the moment you announced your engagement publicly, you triggered the morality clause. Marrying your sister's fiancé, while he was still engaged, constitutes a violation. Sophia turned to me, her perfect curls now falling apart. You knew about this? I found out 2 weeks ago, I said. Right after you sent that adorable invitation that said, come see what true love looks like. But, if you married Marcus, she stammered. I wouldn't, I interrupted. Marcus Thompson is $200,000 in debt, committed financial fraud, and is legally ineligible under the morality clause. If I'd married him, I would have lost everything, too. Sophia staggered backward, her voice breaking. You did this on purpose. No, I said. You did this to yourself. Marcus tried to interject. Sophie, the prenup, she turned, confused. What prenup? The one you signed, keeping finances separate. Her laugh was sharp, bitter. What assets, Marcus? Your debt? The garden exploded in chaos. Guests whispering, filming, others trying to slip away unnoticed. Richard Brennan's voice cut through the noise. Mrs. Anderson, is it true your husband's been managing a company he doesn't own? Dad's face turned crimson. That's preposterous, James raised his voice. We have documentation showing he took multiple loans against assets that weren't his. The board will be pursuing legal action. Mrs. Chen added coldly, Mr. Anderson, your position is terminated effective immediately. Miss Fiona Anderson is now acting CEO, pending formal board approval. Gasps. Cameras. Chaos. Sophia's fairy tale wedding was over. Her bouquet lay crushed on the ground. Marcus's boutonniere hung loose. This isn't over, she hissed at me. Oh, it's over, I replied quietly. You're broke, jobless, married to a fraud, and bound by a prenup. You've lost everything you tried to steal. James turned to me. Board meeting, Monday 9 a.m., Miss Anderson. I nodded. I'll be there. Then I faced the stunned crowd. Thank you all for coming. Please, enjoy the reception. It's already paid for, by my deposit, actually. And with that, I walked down the aisle, leaving absolute ruin behind me. Justice wasn't loud that day. It was calm, elegant, and signed in ink.